Hello. So, um, as I relax here with my cat, Sam Shmuel, we just had news bulletin that a rocket from Gaza was intercepted by the Israeli Air Force. I'm giving you context to what I'm about to tell you. So I wanted to share with you my recommendation for a Netflix series based on the true story of an Israeli spy who was spying for Israel in Damascus, Syria, in the 1960s. His name was Eli Cohen. May he rest in peace. May his memory be a blessing, we say in Hebrew. And Zichrono Livracha. And you need to know that context is that we're still under war, even though we function, we go to work, we behave normally. We are still under daily attacks, and the Israeli army is also working to prevent terror attacks such as the one on October 7th. So right now the Air Force, they managed to kill the Iranian representative in Syria, or Iranian friendly representative in Syria, head of a Hezbollah terror group. It's an important achievement because these guys are the head of the snake. Iran has interest to work to attack the allies, Israel, the Western world, US, UK, Europe, and Israel is doing the job for everybody. Instead of the Europeans having to send troops into the Middle East, Israel is fighting not just for Israel, but it's actually preventing the Iranian-backed terrorists from doing acts of terror in the major European cities as well, because we know that's their goal. So Eli Cohen was a brilliant guy, born in Egypt. He was very familiar with Islam, and it was said about him that he knew more about Islam than a lot of Muslim leaders. He grew up with Islam, and he was very motivated to do everything in his power to protect Israel that was under attack. And you have to understand, 1960s, Israel there was no technology like we have today, and it was very difficult to get information about what's going on in Syria. Iron Dome system didn't exist. Israel was attacked because Syria was shooting from the Golan Heights. And Golan Heights is a very sensitive place. The Golan Heights are overlooking the Sea of Galilee, and a lot of agricultural towns, farmers are living there, and they attack the farmers, and they attack them, and there was no way to prevent it because we didn't have the information. So the Mossad, the Israeli intelligence, had the idea of sending someone into Syria. Now they already tried to do that, and in Israel, people are very careful about who you send, because we are aware of the price of life, because life is too precious to send somebody to die. So Eli Cohen took huge risks, but there was great hope he would be able to come back, because he went back and forth from Damascus to Israel, from Syria to Israel, through Europe, without anyone suspecting, for a long time, for several years in fact. He had family, wife and children, and yet he left them. He told his wife he was a traveling salesman, and he gave Israel, through special transmitter, he gave Israel a lot of information about the whereabouts of the Syrian troops, and he convinced them to actually plant trees. So Israeli army, right, they knew where the Syrian base was because they planted trees there. And there was a way of locating the Syrian, where the Syrians were shooting down at Israel. And 1967 was a war where all the armies invaded Israel. The Arab armies, the Arab lands, all surrounding Israel, attacked Israel. And you would think Israel wouldn't survive, but because of this important information we had about the Syrian troops from Eli Cohen, in blessed memory of Eli Cohen, Israel was prepared and knew how to fight the Syrians. So one very major player was taken down. And actually Israel was able to conquer the Golan Heights and a lot of territory. And thanks to this information. And now we have a war in Syria between the different Syrians fighting Syrians. Of course, it doesn't interest the world that Assad murdered 500,000 of his own people, women and children, because it's Muslims killing other Muslims is not interesting. Even though there's really no reason to kill them other than human hate and greed. Whereas Israel is fighting for existence. We are in a war now. A rocket was just shot down by the IDF from Gaza. Yes, from maybe the West thinks that in Gaza people are like, I don't know, walking around barefoot and don't have anything. But despite Israel providing humanitarian aid to these people, they're still shooting rockets at us, yesterday as well. And it's a real danger. And they're holding hostages, about 100 hostages. The lack of respect or reverence for human life is very apparent in The Spy, where you see how they have these, they take dead soldiers, Israeli dead soldiers, and parade them around, and everybody's cheering on and spitting. And for any civilized human being, somebody who grew up with values of respect for human life or for life, this is completely unbearable. You can't even watch that scene. Sacha Baron Cohen is a very talented actor, and he shows the emotions. He's not only a brilliant comic, but he's also very good at displaying human emotions, such as despair, pain, and he's able to convey the emotions Eli Cohen must have had when he saw this horrific parade of dead soldiers and people spitting on them, just like we saw on October 7th. And this was in the 60s, and we're now in 2024, and we have the same exact ideology as in the Middle Ages, as if we're in the Middle Ages. People torturing, public tortures, public hangings, people cheering on as somebody's being hanged. And this is something that is completely inconceivable for people with Western or Judaic Christian values. But for these people in the Middle East, it's okay to hang a person, spit on bodies, torture them, rape, massacre, kidnap, hold hostage. There's no wrong as long as it serves the purpose, which is to uphold a fascist regime. And yet in Western Europe and US, we have so-called progressive people cheering on these kind of fascist regimes, just like in the Hamas in Gaza, the Hezbollah in Lebanon. These people are seen as victims for some reason, even though they invaded Israel, they massacred Israelis in horrific ways, holding hostages. They kidnapped the body of a soldier, an American citizen, Omer, in blessed memory. His body is being kept by these terrorists in Gaza, but an American citizen, and he's just been declared as dead. They know that he has been murdered, and his family was hoping he was being kept alive as a hostage, but apparently he was murdered already on October 7th, and they're keeping his body. Can you imagine that? They're actually dealing with bodies as if you're selling something on eBay. They have no respect for the human life, for the human body. It's horrible, and children are raised that it's okay to cheer on as bodies are being displayed, spit on in this horrific, what is it called, like butcher shop. It's like in a butcher shop, the way you display. I mean, I'm a vegan, so it's hard for me to see even, anything dead being displayed. But,